Greetings, what's up YouTube family? I am here. Today is Friday, December 20th, 2013. I wanted to do a video today to discuss the upcoming winter solstice. I did a lecture last weekend, and I just wanted to summarize my thoughts. And just give you some, I guess, insight, or share my insight that I've had over the years with the winter solstice, and then also summarize my lecture. I wasn't able to film the lecture, so I wanted to do this video. If I had filmed it, I would have uploaded it on my channel. So I felt it was important for those of you who are interested and curious and want to gain my particular perspective on the solstice, then I wanted to share that with you all. So I'm going to go through my slides. I had about 10 slides. You won't be able to see the slides. I'm not that savvy on YouTube. But what I will do is I will go through them, and I will basically explain and give you a summary of what I talked about. Now, before I get into that, just in terms of the winter solstice, why it's important for me. I mean, it's multiple reasons. The main reason, and really the primary reason, in terms of looking at the sun, really the sun, or really more than the sun, because if we see ourselves as spiritual beings, and by spiritual beings, I'm saying that as a spirit, or having a physical body but also a spiritual body. Spiritually, we're connected to everything. We are connected to the sun. We're connected to the moon, the stars, the whole universe. And just looking at astrology, we understand that there are psychological, physical, um, um, spiritual differences that we have, depending on if you're born on this date or if you're born on that date. We see differences based on just like a lot of times what I tune in is you know like for example, everyone knows things can get really active like on a full moon. The energy is at a high on a full moon. So these are just some things that I'm sure most of us are tapped into, are keened into, are aware of. Um, Pulling up the presentation here. But also, one thing I realized, especially I would say in the last, definitely, I think probably since I've been raw, but certainly in the last 8 to 10 years, is that I've noticed how my energy changes from being a very active person. I've always been very active, and of course in the last 15 years I've been practicing yoga. I've been doing this raw food diet, and really it's probably since that time. And I don't know if it's because maybe I'm getting older, and I would like to think that I'm getting wiser. Maybe that's it. But in these past 10, 15 years, what I've noticed is, at least outwardly, physically, on that level, like working my body, trying to, I was a athlete growing up, so I was very much like into working out. I had got into bodybuilding at one point in my young life, and so really, once I got into yoga and you know more more of the healing arts, even dance to a certain extent, I noticed a decline, starting usually around September, October. And I also noticed that my body was more susceptible to injury. And I noticed that um, that was the first major thing that I noticed, because especially, I did capoeira Angola for 5 years, and it was really when I was doing capoeira, but and I was doing yoga at the same time, and my body just wouldn't be able to. I mean, anytime you work out, you no matter almost all working out, even yoga, you're like tearing. It's like you're tearing your by physically challenging your body. It's like you're tearing it down. Just like if you lift weights or you do something physical, you're ripping your muscle apart. Then it heals, and through that healing, it either grows stronger, grows bigger, or even if you're trying to increase your flexibility, it's a similar thing. You work it, and then or you take it out of its comfort zone by working it, and then it heals, and then it grows, or becomes longer or stronger. You get the idea. So in the fall months, what I realized was that your body doesn't heal in the same way that it does in the spring or in the summer. And so this was an amazing insight that I developed. And one particular year, this is about 3 or 4 years ago, I submitted. It was like for the first time I submitted to it, because again, my body, really had no choice. It was like, my body needed more than a day or two. It needed a week. It actually needed a few weeks. And one particular year, I think I took, and I mean, I'm kind of person, I'm doing yoga 4 or 5 times a week. Or when I was doing capoeira 3 to 4 times a week, doing yoga 1 to 2 times a week. So very active, definitely going at it, you know, going hard every week. And one thing I realized was that I had to. So this particular year, this year, not this year, but a couple of years ago, I think I took like, I just said, you know what, I don't want to get hurt. I'm not gonna overdo it. When fall came, I must have took like maybe 2 months off. I said I'm not gonna do anything, anything like extracurricular in terms of like, working out, a yoga routine. I'm just gonna let my body rest. That was the key. The key word is rest. And when I got to, and this was in the fall, and when January hit, I could feel my body was feeling eager. I was listening to my body. I was like, okay, I feel like working out. And because I had took about 6 to 8 weeks off, of course there was some rust there. But what I realized, after about 2 weeks, my body, I had made more gains. Like my body was beyond where I was all of the previous year, and the rest was necessary. It was really attributed to the rest. I felt like if I would have kept going and I didn't give my body that rest, then I would not have been able to, like, my gains were much more significant between January and March. By March, I was beyond where I was all of last year, and I had rested for 2 months. And so this was very exciting for me. I was like, wow, that rest really helped me. And when I think about professional athletes, like, for example, just this morning I was reading about Kobe Bryant. He just, he ruptured his Achilles last year, and now he has a knee fracture. He'll be out for another few weeks. His body is screaming for rest. I mean, you look at Kobe Bryant, he's an extreme case where he is like a workout. Like, I mean, I mean, not just him, but all professional athletes. I mean, they're trying to stay on top of the game, and they're trying to, extend their careers, and they're working out in their sleep. I mean, they're working out so much. They don't never like take a month off, take 2 months off. That may be the best thing that that any of them need. I mean, you hear a lot about them, like LeBron and people like that, getting into yoga, which is great. But the rest is even more important. I mean, even if you're doing yoga and these kind of arts, it's like that experience for me a few years ago really, it turned a light bulb on. I said, wow, I need to, this is something that is important for everyone to understand. So of course, how does this all tie into the winter solstice? It ties in greatly because we are connected to the sun. We are sun solar beings. The sun is, or what it represents for us is really everything. I mean, we wake up with the sun. We go to sleep when the sun goes to sleep. We are solar creatures. We are solar beings. Now, with that said, we have to understand that in terms of efficiency, optimizing our lives, that was really the subtext to my lecture. And so I will, I have my presentation here on the computer. I know you can't see it, but I'm going to go through the slides here. And, basically, what I began, let me get the light here. I began my lecture really going in and talking about the I guess because the thing is that we're very much, as human beings, we follow traditions. We love traditions. Because right now, we're looking at the holidays, and we're very much in tune with holidays. Holidays represent like memories of growing up, family, and such. And the thing is that when we look, when I was doing my research, putting this together, I wanted to find out more about the solstices in terms of the traditions that are not so obvious to most of us. What's obvious to most of us, obviously, are the Christmas, the holidays. Even if you celebrate Passover or not Passover, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, things like that. Again, these things are. There is no coincidence that these things also are aligned with the winter solstice. None more so than Christmas. If we when we look at the solstice, the solstice is a 4-day phenomena where when you look at if you looked at the sun going across the sky, and we know that we should all understand that the Earth rotates on an axis, it rotates around the sun, and that through that rotation it appears as though the sun is moving across the sky. But as it moves across the sky, because the Earth is tilted, this time of the year is tilted in the northern hemisphere, is tilted away from the sun, so the days become shorter and shorter and shorter. So that travel time around the sky becomes shorter and shorter and shorter. And between the 21st and the 24th, there's like a stagnation and basically a turning point. And that turning point is a 4-day phenomenon. And because, as I explained, how we're solar beings, and I didn't even really get into, I guess I'll get into this later, in terms of, I talked about our physical activity, but that also represents our how we should eat. And so the thing is that because we have these traditional holidays, how did these holidays come about? How what created? And I mean, I could go into, and you can actually do your own research in terms of the history of Christmas, the history of all of the holidays, but it's no coincidence that they're connected to the winter solstice, especially Christmas. There's no clear example of a solar holiday. If we looked at that 4-day period, and then we also look at the fact that the sun in that time is in the constellation Virgo, and the constellation Virgo is the representation, or the spiritual representation of the Virgin Mary, and Jesus being the representation of the sun. So now these things begin to make more sense in terms of if we looked at our universe. I was having a conversation yesterday, with a Christian who we weren't arguing, we weren't debating. I was just making it clear that, in a sense, Jesus is real because the sun is real, the sun in the sky. And because we're connected to the sun, we're connected to the moon, and we're connected to all the planets in this solar system, these things are real. And most ancient forms of spirituality have personified the energies that exist in our solar system, because they are real. Now, they're not real in the sense that, because again, December 25th is the first day, is the first clear day that the sun now begins to make its path towards longer days, which means for us life. It is the savior. It does represent that turning point, and that ascent towards longer days, which represents upcoming spring, and crops, and so life, and so it's very clear those days. And just to even make it that even and also Easter. Easter is the resurrection time. Spring is resurrection. It's no coincidence that Easter falls on. And the thing is, like, does anyone ever ask the question, why is Easter in March some years and Easter in April some years? And that's because after the spring equinox, Easter is selected based on when the first full moon after March 21st. So the full moon could be in March. It could be that after March 21st, or it could be in April. So we see clearly that religions, or the people behind the creation of the holidays, and again, these is um, you can there's a lot of information, videos and such, movies, even documentaries on YouTube and such. My thing is, it's important to understand these things, but what's more important is, at least for me, and for me to tell you, is how do we use this? How do we use this in terms of our diet, health, and lifestyle? I'm not here to really promote, or to to it's not, it's this. Yes, this is something that is of great interest to me, but also, more importantly, it is important that um, uh, it is important that I focus on my niche, which is food, health, longevity, those kinds of things. And in terms of longevity, this is probably the most important time of the year to recognize, because we have to understand that rest on a certain level is very important. So in terms of the winter solstice, and going into my lecture, I talked about someone is knocking on my door. I gotta ignore that. Um, the first thing that I outlined, and you can find this out, is that uh, the founders of this country um, were, of course, very much aware of these sorts of phenomena and these sorts of energies. And one of the things that I pointed out on my lecture is that the Washington D.C. It was aligned with the stars. It was created with the heavens in mind. If you go around the city, some of the important buildings, whether it's the Library of Congress, the Federal Reserve Building, National Archives, these things all have like astrological references. You see different astrological constellations, astrological characters. Like when you see different, whether they're structures or images, these things these things are symbols, and we understand that, again, there's like hidden messages, knowledge. Nothing was done just for vanity's sake, or everything was done for purpose and for reason. And this is serious business. This nation was created as the modern day Atlantis, and so it was very important to capture certain energies and to align. So Washington D.C., But one of the things I pointed out in my slides is that if we looked at the 5 major cities that are on the East Coast, Washington, D.C., Baltimore, Maryland, Philadelphia, New York, and Boston, they all form a line, and they're on what is known as a ley line. And if we extend that ley line across the globe, they cross, or they're in perfect alignment. As they go over the Atlantic Ocean into Europe, they cross over to Stonehenge. Now, Stonehenge, Stonehenge is a structure that was built, with the solstices in mind, and they're actually even now, even at the present day, Stonehenge is, they have solstice, winter solstice, and summer solstice celebrations. So again, is this coincidence? I don't think so. And I had read long time ago that the president, there's a ritual that the president does on the summer solstice. Now, if you look at Washington, D.C., and you looked at the White House, we have the Meridian Park, which is a fountain. There's a fountain on Meridian Hill Park, and that fountain can be looked at the female, and then you have the male obelisk, Washington Monument, which is right behind the White House. And so it's like you have this, and during the summer solstice, again, because the summer solstice is the opposite of the winter solstice, where you have the solar energy at its greatest. So the president is supposed to be a time where the president is garnering, the solar energy. And there's a ritual that supposedly takes place in the White House where the president is required to be there and to, really capture that time. So again, the powers that be, if I can say that, or the people who are in power, understand that the energy of our universe, and everything that comes with that, whether it's understanding the constellations, is understanding astrology, definitely understanding astronomy. These are things that are important in terms of capturing, in terms of optimizing the results that we are looking to achieve, which could be, for different people. I mean, obviously for them it's, power and control, and whether it's power over us as people, power over other nations, or all of the above. So, so the U.S. was designed, even just starting with Washington, D.C., the nation's capital, it was designed with getting the blessings from the heavens. So I go through, I talked about that. I go through what the winter solstice is about, and really one of the analogies I make, and this really sort of sums it up, is if we looked at a solar year being 365 days, and if we took that and we mapped that over a 24-hour clock, the winter solstice would be right where it would be at 12 midnight. Okay, the summer solstice would be at 12 noon, midday. The spring equinox would be at 6 a.m. The autumn equinox would be at, what's that, 6 p.m. Okay, so when we look at the winter solstice in terms of the, like, if we thought about it as if we like we think about our 24-hour clock, what are we doing at midnight, or what should we be doing? We should be sleeping. And the thing is that if we looked at our day and we mapped it out, or we projected it over a year, obviously how we are at 12 noon is totally different than how we are at 12 midnight. And again, we are greatly affected. I cannot understate or overstate. Greatly affected by the sun's or the Earth's movement with the sun. And the thing is that, so once we understand this, is that this time of the year, we are very different. Our bodies heal differently. Our bodies think differently, process food differently. I mean, everything is the direct opposite of when it is even spring, summer, and even the fall. So with that said, I mean, you have to really think on that and put that in perspective, because again, for most of us, and especially with the use of, or I should say the modern day use of electricity, most people pretty much are doing things on an even keel throughout the year. And it's really undoing themselves when you think about it. Because the thing is like, it's almost looking like say, for example, hypothetically, if you didn't sleep. If you didn't sleep, if you don't get proper sleep in a 24-hour cycle, that's going to affect your time when you're awake. So if we don't get the proper rest on a yearly basis, if we don't take a special advantage of the winter solstice during that time, then it's going to affect us when the energy is greater, or when the energy is more conducive for us to outwardly achieve and do things on a different level. This is significant, because the thing is that when we also think about the nighttime hours, when we look at you can even look at the in traditional Chinese medicine, they have a 24-hour organ clock. And a lot of, basically, to really simplify it, is really during the nighttime hours where healing takes place, rejuvenation takes place. And the thing is that without rest, there's no rejuvenation, there's no healing. And if we're not healing on a yearly level, then the thing is, it's going to affect our lives. And the thing is like, that's also cumulative. If we're constantly undoing ourselves but not getting that proper rest, on all levels, rest being, stepping back from food, taking a step back from activities, taking a step back from work, taking a step back from just about everything where you use either physical energy, mental energy, or spiritual energy. We have to take steps back. So, one of the organs, or one of the glands, I should say, that comes into higher focus is the pineal gland. And the thing is that, again, on a 24-hour cycle, uh, we understand that, as I talked about the healing that takes place in the night, when we really start to look at the science of it, we understand that um, during the nighttime hours, part of the healing is that takes place is from the hormones that are released. Some of those hormones are melatonin, serotonin. And the pineal gland is the gland that is secreting the melatonin, the serotonin. What is melatonin, serotonin? Again, these are melatonin. I like to think of as like liquid melanin. That is works like an antioxidant and is going through and healing. And healing is happening because we're resting. And with that rest, with with what is specifically in terms of the pineal gland. The pineal gland, what is special about the pineal gland is that it regulates just about everything in our body. And because the pineal gland is really more active at night, that really tells you a lot. Because the thing is that now during this time of the year, the pineal gland is more active in general because our days are shorter and we have more night hours than we do day hours. So the thing is that this is something really special to know. Um, what I talked about and what I discussed is the different glands that it manages. So it's like the manager of our whole system, and regulating the thyroid gland. The thyroid gland is responsible for our energy. So again, whether we have good energy, high energy, if we feel good, how our energy is, and of course that's also related to our energy is going to be responsible for how we process food. That's why we have like people who have high metabolism, low metabolism. If you have a low metabolism, then your energy is not as high as somebody who has a higher metabolism. So it's regulating that. So not only our energy, how we process food, which is like everything, because we are what we eat. If we can't process food on a certain level, that's major. The thymus gland. The thymus gland is responsible, is really our immune system and how it works, how it fights off disease, how it's able to handle things like cancer and all these like really serious and non-serious or non-life threatening diseases. Our pancreas is our blood, how we process sugar, how we can produce insulin, how high blood pressure, all of these things. So uh, the pineal gland is really where it's at. And the thing is like, again, when we look back at optimizing our lives, it's really about taking advantage. Just like in a 24-hour cycle, if we don't take advantage and get at least 8 hours of sleep during that time, then then we're not going to be as effective, nowhere near as effective. It's just in the same way, like I said, like if we don't get that 8 hours, if we don't get that time during this time of the year, if we don't take advantage and pull back from eating, pull back from work, pull back from working out, we're not going to be as effective during the year as we would is if we do. And so the other glands that it affects, the adrenal glands, and also the our sex organs. So for men, that usually means our prostate. So again, prostate prostate issues are very real. Um, our sexual energy is our life energy. And And that's very critical, in terms of, uh, um, how we, it's like a measure, it's like a parameter of our life, is our sexual life. For women, usually means your moon cycle. If your cycle is really out of whack, if you're bleeding 5, 6, 7 days with cramps and emotional mood swings, again, this is just showing a high level of toxicity. This is showing, basically a lot of loss. If you're losing a lot of blood, you're losing vitality, you're losing life. So this all starts with the pineal gland. So we have to recognize that the pineal gland during this time of the year comes into higher focus, and we want to maximize and get the most from this gland. And how do we do that? Well, one of the foods, probably the number one food that is that is that can help our pineal gland to work better, to perform these functions, these vital functions, is the noni juice, or noni fruit, I should say. Uh, the noni fruit is definitely, I don't like the word superfood per se. I feel that all the food that we should eat should be super. But if there is any food that I can truly call superior than most foods, is noni. And the reason that is because noni directly is, especially noni juice. And noni juice is when you take the noni fruit, because the noni fruit on a tree is, well, when it's not ripe, it's green, and as it ripens, it starts to turn white, and as it ferments, it starts to turn brown or even black, which is, again, that color shows you that it's like you're drinking that liquid melanin or liquid melatonin or liquid food for the pineal gland. And when we look at what noni juice can do, and first and foremost being food for the pineal gland, very high in basically most minerals, but I'll just point out that it's high in selenium, which is great for our skin. It's also an anti-everything, antimicrobial, antifungal, antioxidant, anti-inflammatory, antiseptic. When I was in Jamaica, I met up with some sisters from the Maroons, and who were bush herbalists. They would use the noni was probably their first and most used remedy, even used topically. If you got a burn, if you got some skin issues, you can pour the noni juice right on there. Of course, internally, it's just, again, allowing our pineal gland to perform its functions better. So the noni juice is powerful, especially, and I haven't even touched on this yet, but when we talk about juice fasting, juice cleansing, people always ask me about wheatgrass juice. Um, I don't even recommend wheatgrass juice. When people talk about, I mean, and we look at it in comparison to the noni juices, there's no comparison. The noni juice is where it's at. Okay, so we have that, and so I think by now, hopefully, you've gotten an understanding of what the winter solstice is, and what it represents, and the thing is like, when putting all that in perspective, and then now understanding what most people are doing, how most people are undoing themselves. I mentioned electricity. So again, this time of the year, what does it mean? You could just take a drive out at night and see all the lights, all the festivities, the Christmas decorations. This is having an effect on us. This is really a time where darkness needs to be celebrated. Again, even when you're asleep, they say no lights. Like the smallest light can have an effect on your sleep. Now imagine, um, I remember, I think it was 2 summers ago, we had a, we had a, um, we had a, the electricity was out for like a week. I mean, the energy was so, and this was in the summertime. The energy was so different. I mean, when the sun went down, it was like everything, like this became, and now this is a big city, Washington, D.C., when it felt like a country town. I mean, electricity is so, I can't, I mean, there really should be a study done on electricity and its effect on our health. I would, I mean, maybe that's something that I should do, but for someone out there who's into, who does that kind of research, I mean, that would be something I think would be significant. I mean, and again, when I've traveled to other parts of the world, like Caribbean, for example, you know, the country will shut off its electricity, because again, most people are asleep anyway. Why does electricity need to be going or powering the country? So again, these people are having, and I mean, when I've been in those places, I've slept better. I've wanted to go to sleep earlier. When the sun goes down, it's like, wow, I really feel tired. Here, it's like I'm wired all the way until 11, 12 o'clock. And it's because of all of the gadgets and the electricity and the effect that it has on our lives. So the thing is that this time of the year, it's like electricity, especially if you have, if you're using, I mean, we all have like refrigerators, but even if your heat is being generated by electricity, your electricity is going to be running. I know some people who shut off the main power, the main power of their electricity at night, which is a great idea. Um, because again, they've done studies on waves and Wi-Fi and the effect that it has. It has an effect. It may be subtle, you may not feel it, but it has an effect. Um, of course, in addition to that, there's also a time, this is party time. This is like food festivities. This is a time where, it's feast. We had the Thanksgiving holiday, Christmas is no different, New Year's it's party time. It's a time to, pull out the huge meals. And the thing is that, of course, the more important than anything else, um, more important than our physical activity, more important than our spiritual, mental activity, is our food consumption activity. Our food consumption activity should be minimized. This is really really the time for fasting, more than any other time during the year. This is a time to really, if you're eating 3 meals a day, it should be 2 meals or 1 meal a day. If you're eating a big meal, or if you're eating a certain amount of food, like maybe you're eating 3 cups of food, it should be 1 cup. You don't necessarily have to fast per se, but it should be minimized. Like say, instead of doing, some of the heavier stimulating foods, you may go more towards like soups and salads. There's ways to, cut back. You don't necessarily have to do a juice fast or a water fast or something of that nature. Something, because that may be extreme for most people. You have to be realistic with yourself, and take small steps, baby steps, especially with food. But this time of the year, it's like you would think that, at least in terms of the celebratory activities, that these are activities that really should be more or less uh, presented in the summertime, where our energy is greatest. In terms of the food and I mean, I know we do things in the summertime. We get out and we do things in the summertime, but to do this in the wintertime, during the winter solstice, when the time is at its weakest, um, we're really undoing ourselves. And then the thing is that you know what is weak is, there's an inverse relationship between what is weak now becomes strong. So like in a 24-hour cycle, if we looked at our mind, we have the on a mental level, right now during the daytime, you're watching this video, you're using your conscious mind. During the waking hours, our conscious mind is dominant. But we know that we have a subconscious mind that becomes less dominant. Now, during the nighttime hours, our subconscious mind takes over and, it controls our dreams and things of that nature. And our conscious mind becomes less dominant. And the thing is that during this time of the year, our subconscious mind becomes more prevalent in terms of its receptivity. This time is a time of receptivity. So we're sowing seeds of feasting, of pagan holidays, of pagan being the Christmas and what that means. It doesn't mean celebration of the sun as it should. The sun in the sky being is the celebration of either Jesus, a figure that has become representative of the sun, or even Santa, he's now trumped Jesus for even many Christians. So Santa, what Santa means? Santa means the consumption of gifts or just this consumerism, at its highest. So the thing is that these become seeds that carry into the new year as well. Because again, whatever we're planning in our subconscious mind, we have to, uh, you know, that's the way things happen in nature. Things are created in darkness, and then they come to light. Seeds are planted in soil, then it comes in it springs towards the light. In the same way, that's the same way things happen in our lives with our mind. Things are planted into our subconscious at night, and then they come to fruition during the day. So these things are being, all of these activities and things are feeding our spirit. And the thing is that we really should be, if we want, to optimize our lives. Again, I think it's a time definitely for family gathering, for reflecting, for coming together as people, definitely. But the activities that we're doing are counterproductive. They go against who we are. I think inherently on a spiritual level, it definitely goes against our physical being, in terms of our health and vitality, So the thing is that we have to really understand these things, put these things into perspective. With that, I mentioned one of my personal heroes, Liyue, who, as legend has it, was born in 16 in the 1600s. He died in the 1900s. Records have it that he lived to 256 years old. He was a ancient. He was a Chinese. He was from China. He was a master. He practiced various forms of qigong. For those of you not familiar with qigong, qigong is the predecessor of Tai Chi. It is a practice of breathing, sounds, and slight movements. you're really trying to exercise yourself internally by doing very little externally. Um, in terms of his diet, there are different ideas of what he ate, but what we do know is that he ate goji berries and wild ginseng, and I mean he ate other stuff as well, but those things come into focus, especially the goji berries, because, and even the ginseng, but definitely the goji berries. Goji berries have been known to be almost definitely like a longevity food. Um, he walked 10 miles a day, and his formula for longevity was tranquil mind, sit like a turtle, walk sprightly like a pigeon, and sleep like a dog. And I think out of those four, to me the most important is sleep like a dog, because again, sleeping is healing, sleeping is rejuvenation, sleeping is longevity. Uh, you know, the better we sleep, and even, if we sleep efficiently, and again, this time of the year is like a sleep cycle. Even though I'm awake right now, of course, I'm going to be awake for the next, I don't know, 10 hours. It is a sleep cycle in general, and we need to treat it. Our activities should mirror that as such. And I think this is a great example. I think um, he definitely was aware and had knowledge of the winter solstice, and the times of year, and he probably had it down where he ate specific foods. He's very much connected to nature. He was an herbalist, so he ate very much foods that he foraged, and that I'm sure that he collected himself. So this was an example, a great example of longevity, of what life can be. He apparently had more than 20 wives. I'm pretty sure he didn't have those all at the same time, living over 200 years old. But he also had over 200 children. So this was someone who, I think, at least for me, is definitely a benchmark. It is something that, for myself, um, uh, it's something I think for myself, I like to think, my life, and I'm sure some of you or most of you think, you want to leave your mark. We know that, no matter what we do, all of us will expire at some point. But really, the goal for me is that I know that I'm here in the now, is to live a fulfilling life. And I think also legend has it is that he said to his students that it's time for me to go, meaning that, or translation, uh, I choose when I die. I could live another 100 years if I wish, if I do certain practices, but my time is up. I can feel it, and it's time. And I think, that's one of my goals. I can put on my bucket list, when I kick the bucket, I choose when I kick the bucket. So that's on my bucket list, to choose when I kick the bucket. Okay. So that was something I'm pointing out in the lecture. So the thing is that, to bring this to a conclusion, last but not least, I want to talk about juice fasting. Obviously, this is a major part of my life, my business, the service I provide to thousands of people over the last 7 years. This is a great time to do a juice fast. Probably easily the best time. Most people who are conscious and aware of the shifts in the cycle, will fast during the change of seasons, the equinoxes and solstice. But if there's one particular time that is more critical than any other time, it is the winter solstice. The winter solstice really is more definitely more important or more critical than the other times. And just for reference sake, the summer solstice is probably the least significant, and that's simply because our energy is at its greatest. Our healing energy is at its at least our outwardly that yang energy is at its strongest. So that time we can really do more. We can really sleep less. This is the time where sleeping and resting and fasting needs to be in focus. And in likeness, that means, also your meditation, your prayer, your planning for the new year. This is the most opportune time of the year to do these things, to get the most from the least. And again, that's optimizing our lives. And I think if we did this, not just this year, of course, but if we just make this a regular practice, we're not only optimizing our lives for the year to come, but for the years to come. This has a cumulative effect on our life, and by doing this year after year after year, we extend our life. And I think this principle, more than any other, would definitely be a significant contribution to not only our quality of life, but also the quantity of our life. So, and of course, as I mentioned, the ancient Chinese master of a couple hundred years ago, Li Qing Yuan, he was a master, and I think we should all look to that. We should all look to get the most, to get the best that we have. That this is this physical, this is a gift. Our mind. To be able, we are the living, walking gods of the earth, and it is a beautiful thing to have the understanding that we are connected to the sun. We are connected to the moon. We're connected to this universe, and that we are we're the only, living creatures that can, create our reality. We can, that in and of itself makes us godlike. There's nothing that is God that is not a part of us. So we are the walking, living gods of the earth, and with that knowledge, becomes a responsibility to maximize our lives, to maximize our potential, to optimize, and we owe it to ourselves, we owe it to our loved ones. I've definitely taken on, with the work that I've been doing here in Washington, D.C., in the community, from even my own family, my children, my siblings, my parents. It's an awesome responsibility, but it's a responsibility that I'm just honored to just be here at this present moment. And I thank you for watching. It's been a little over an hour. I hope you were able to get something out of it. If you want to leave a comment or a question, please feel free to do so. And until next time, enjoy your winter solstice. I wish all of you the best in this year, upcoming 2014. And check out my website, KeppersRawFoodJuiceBar.com. I've actually, if you click on newsletter, I have a special going for my DVDs and book. My book, I don't have it with me. I think I have a copy, but it's called Paradise Health. It talks about healing, and then I have my food preparation DVDs. So so take advantage of that, and till next time.